Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Piontek, he, him pronouns, and I'm the Director of Clinical Services and one of the providers here at Southwest Center. I wanted to thank each and every one of you for joining this question and answer session about monkeypox and what we're doing to address it. We know there are a lot of questions and uncertainties surrounding monkeypox, so we wanted to take this opportunity to provide information and kind of help ease some of those concerns. I'm joined today by two of my amazing colleagues, and I'm going to allow each of them to introduce yourselves.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Gelow. I'm the new medical director here at Southwest Center. I just joined earlier this year, and I'm excited to be able to tell you a little bit more about monkeypox. Everyone's worried about this because of COVID and coronavirus and everything that's happened. And I think this will be a really great educational opportunity so that we can help you make better informed decisions on how to protect yourself and others around you. And we want this to be both educational and we want it to be where you guys can ask questions in an informal manner. So please ask everything that is on your mind. We're happy to answer everything.
Thanks, Dr. Gelow. My name is Chel'sea Ryan, she, her pronouns, and I'm the Director of Mental Social Wellness here at the Southwest Center. I'm also the clinical supervisor and practicing clinician. So everything you can think of, I probably do. So I'm going to provide some mental health updates on monkeypox and what we can do to kind of deal with the shame, stigma, and guilt surrounding it. I'm also going to talk about resources where you can seek out therapy, peer support services, and groups, and just be part of the community that loves you so much.
So while we're doing this question and answer session, there's going to be a chat box located on your screen if you want to put any of your questions that you have there so we can make sure that we address as much as we can. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gelow to start off with a little bit of background about monkeypox.
Thank you. So we have a slide deck that's up and we'll kind of follow along with that as best as we can. And if we get a little off track, sorry about it, but we'll get back on track, I'm sure. I like to talk a little bit more than the slide deck has. But we'll start with some monkeypox agenda. So our agenda is going to cover causes of monkeypox, symptoms and examples of monkeypox, so you kind of have something to compare yourself with if you do feel like you're exposed or have any symptoms to help you make an educated decision on where to go next. Monkeypox treatment, mental health and stigma, and vaccine information and other resources as well. Okay, so we'll start with causes of monkeypox. So important to know that monkeypox is not a sexually transmitted infection. Okay, so that's first and foremost. It's kind of portrayed that way, but it's not. It's actually via contact, and so it's contact in an intimate manner. So it's skin to skin contact. You need to have direct contact with somebody that has a rash or scabs of healing monkeypox or bodily fluids. And we're finding that sometimes saliva can also convey monkeypox as well, so we have to be careful about that. Touching objects such as fabric, so clothing, towels is important. We'll get to that in a minute. Bedding and surfaces that have been used by someone with monkeypox can also transmit this as well. And contact with respiratory secretions can also transmit this. The interesting thing about monkeypox is that although these surfaces tend to carry it, it's actually easily destroyed. So just your normal household cleansers can actually destroy it. So, Lysol, bleach, that kind of stuff can actually get rid of monkeypox and detergents as well. So it's not very likely that through washing there'll be any lasting contamination. So that's something that's really important. So like we said, it's spread through intimate contact. So that includes oral, anal, or vaginal sex. That would be touching of the genitals, so penis, testicles, labia, vagina, and or anus. And that's of a person with monkeypox. Hugging, massaging, kissing, prolonged face-to-face contact. And then we talked about the touching of the fabrics and stuff that have not been disinfected, okay? Interestingly, a lot of people question about why the LGBTQ positive individuals are mostly affected with this, or that's how it's portrayed. And if you kind of figure out what the causes of this are, you kind of understand, right now we have a lot of pride celebrations, we have large gatherings together. And with that, we have a lot of pool parties. So, clothing, bedding, that kind of stuff. And when we're at pool parties, we're not fully clothed. We got, Speedos or trim trunks on. And when we're hugging in close contact, there's more skin that can be exposed to others. And so that's probably why this is spreading so quickly right now in our communities, just because of all of our pride celebrations that we're having. And just, we're a very friendly, hugging community. And that's kind of our nature. Monkeypox can be spread from the time symptoms start until the rash has healed, but scabs have fallen off and new skin has actually covered that area. So you can't have any lasting symptoms of monkeypox. That would be a bump or anything that's filled with, any material, any scabbing. It's got to be completely fresh layer of skin. And that can actually take 2 to 4 weeks. And that's kind of the dilemma here is during that time, we have to make sure we stay quarantined because it's highly infectious to others. And I know it's hard for a lot of people to stay home and do that, but this right now is becoming a health crisis. And so we got to make sure that we protect everyone around us during this time. So within 3 weeks of an exposure, you're going to have some symptoms generally. And for most people, the symptoms are going to be flu-like. So very non-specific where people just kind of feel like they're under the weather. So fever, chills, muscle aches, back aches, that would be kind of the muscle, headaches, sore throat, maybe a cough, exhaustion, fatigue. And a couple of my patients actually presented with some diarrhea. That's sometimes their hallmark symptom of viral illnesses as well. What's interesting about this specific virus is that it actually causes swollen lymph nodes. And so lymph nodes that we can generally palpate are going to be here in our neck. So behind this nice side muscle that we have, either behind or in front of that. We have lymph nodes in our groin as well. So in that kind of the crease in our groin, we can sometimes feel some things that get swollen there. In our armpits, there is another area where we can feel some swollen lymph nodes. And that's really hallmark of this virus is causing that. A rash typically develops after all of these symptoms, so usually a few days after those flu-like symptoms. And the rash can be located anywhere. So genitals is a big location now. The anus is another location, potentially. It's sites of exposure often, but can be on hands and feet. And that's very interesting because not a lot of our viruses or infections in general have symptoms specifically on the palms of our hands and the soles of our feet. Syphilis is another one that can do that, but not very many things do that. So that's kind of a really hallmark that we need to watch out for this. The rash goes through several stages, and we'll show some pictures here in the future about what that looks like before healing. They can look just like pimples, and that's kind of what a lot of us don't realize is that it doesn't have to look classically like what we call a pox, which we'll explain here in a minute, but it can just be a pimple, and it usually is pretty painful, and it can be itchy as well. Rashes can be inside the mouth and inside the vagina and anus as well. So the pictures here, there's 6 different pictures, and it's kind of like a little progression, if you will. So as you can see on the first one, and maybe you can zoom in, we got this from the CDC website, just as an FYI. So if you do want to go and kind of see a different full color picture, you can go to the CDC website on monkeypox. But it looks like a little pimple, kind of gets a little bigger. And the classic pox, the reason why it's called a pox is because if you look at that third picture, it looks like it has a little belly button in the middle. So like that little black spot. And so that's called an umbilication or a pox. And so it's kind of filled with pus, it's filled with a fluid, and in the middle of it kind of craters in a little bit. And then it opens up, as you can see, and kind of starts scabbing over. So this is kind of the stages that you generally see if it were to go through that. Now, everyone gets worried about a pimple. I have one pimple on my face, or I have a pimple on my belly, or I have a pimple somewhere. And we have to kind of take the other constellation of symptoms in respect as well. So do we have those flu-like symptoms leading up to this, and then a rash that developed, or is it just a run-of-the-mill pimple? So that's really important, is that history that happens a few days before this starts. So kind of keep that in mind, okay? So if you have symptoms, obviously we're going to avoid close contact. You don't want to go to a pool party, even though you may have a sore throat or something like that. You want to kind of stay inside. You don't want to have skin-to-skin contact with others. Obviously, see your provider as soon as possible to get a test to determine if you have monkeypox or not. One of the issues that my patients have been having is that, and I don't want to, have you not go to a provider, but if you don't have a provider that deals with LGBTQ issues, they may not be familiar with monkeypox right now because it kind of is a newer infection. So obviously, coming down to Southwest Center, if you have an LGBTQ provider, they should be pretty well versed on it. But going to an urgent care and just kind of educating them as well, just asking questions, do you think this could be monkeypox, and kind of helping educate the provider. I had these symptoms before, now I have this rash, I have this, educational session where they said it may be this, is that something that I should be concerned about? That would be awesome. So if you don't have a primary care doctor or can't get in with them, going and helping, going to an urgent care and maybe helping educate them a little bit is in your best interest. Obviously, you want to get a test as soon as possible, and then wearing a mask while out in public is helpful as well, because like we said, this can be spread via respiratory secretions. Now we're going to take a little question and answer break, I think, and Taylor will kind of lead us a little bit.
All right. So our first question is, do you have any suggestions on how to keep my social life but safe from monkeypox?
So I'm guessing what you're kind of asking is how to keep your social life separate, like kind of
how to still have a social life but
yeah.
be safe from monkeypox.
Got it. So I think that what we need to be realizing is that when we are in close and intimate contact with others, that if we have a lot of skin-to-skin contact, that's when the transmission happens. Now, we don't want you to go out in like a trench coat and touch people with gloves, but at the same time, be smart about it. Maybe we don't kiss on the lips, around this time right now. Maybe we just hug, for a short period of time, and make sure that we're wearing clothing when we do that. For pool parties, maybe we don't go around and hug everybody. But we just recommend that we see everybody, we introduce ourselves or talk to them, and just try to maintain some sort of contact. And then really important is just not sharing other people's stuff. So maybe not sharing other people's clothes unless they're washed. When you're at a pool party, which is it's hot right now, and we do that all the time. Don't share other people's towels. Just kind of keeping your own personal belongings to yourself can really be helpful.
And Taylor, I'd like to follow up on that. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, all of the tools that we can use can help us stay connected. So if we can't go to the pool party, Dr. Gelow, we can always chime in. Someone can video stream it, live stream it. We can FaceTime them. So as Dr. Gelow said, we'd hate for you to stay in the house under the covers, hiding, because that's, and I'll talk about it later, that's what causes the stigma, shame, and guilt. So if you can be as active as you can virtually, we totally encourage you to do it.
Great point. Do you have any other questions right now? All right. So it looks like we're going to kind of move along to some monkeypox treatment. So Dr. Gelow, can you take it away?
All right. So we think we may have monkeypox. We have some symptoms. We're worried about that. And how do we get treatment? Well, there is an actual medication. It's called TPOXX, TPOXX. And it's reserved. We only have, few doses for it. It's reserved for, which we'll talk about in a minute, of who can get that. But there is a treatment for this to help prevent it. Now, it's experimental for monkeypox, okay? Most of our treatment, most of our prevention is geared toward smallpox, which is an old eradicated virus that is very similar to monkeypox. So a lot of our treatment and prevention actually work for that. But this treatment is called TPOXX, and it's only for those that have tested positive. So we'll talk about it here in a minute. So it is those that have been confirmed positive for monkeypox. So even if you have all the symptoms, so we have all the, fever and flu-like things, and we have the blisters, and we have the pox, you still can't get this medicine until you've officially been tested, and the test comes back positive, because we have such few doses right now. And then we have to make sure that you qualify for that. And this would be people who have severe cases requiring hospitalization. Obviously, they would qualify for that. People who are at higher risk of a severe case. So immunocompromised people, children, people that are breastfeeding, history of certain skin conditions, where this could be more prevalent along their body and more distribution. People with more health conditions. So if you're 20-year-old healthy person and you don't have any other medical conditions, you're probably going to get over this. You may not qualify, but if you're 20, 30 years old, you have high blood pressure, maybe some obesity or diabetes, you would be a higher candidate because you're more likely for this infection to kind of be a little bit more severe. People who have rashes in the eyes, the mouth, or other areas where the virus may have special risks, such as the genitals and anus, because this can be very, very painful. And that can actually cause a lot of problems. Going to the bathroom can be painful, sitting down can be painful. And so obviously that's what we're going to be using this treatment for. We're able to give this to people only if they're positive, like we said, and it has to be distributed right now by the county health department. So your provider, whoever that would be at the time that diagnoses it, has to get in contact with the county, and it has to be distributed actually from the county. So that's kind of a coordinated effect. It may not be immediate, it may take a day or so, but they're very quick at getting this out, and they've been wonderful at keeping on top of all this right now. People who are not eligible for this are going to be only a select few. So it's going to be those that don't sign an informed consent or refuse treatment. So this is technically considered an experimental treatment. Remember, it's for smallpox. We know it works for monkeypox, but it's not approved yet. But we know it works, and so it's considered experimental. So that's why we have to kind of jump through these hoops, but we can get it for you if we need to. And then those that have a known allergy to the medication, of course. So we're not going to give you something that you're allergic to. It just doesn't make sense. Now we're going to go into the kind of mental health aspects that are here, and Chelsea's going to kind of take over for this. So I'll let you go ahead.
All right, thanks, doctor. So when we're thinking about our overall mental health, it affects not only, our brain, but it also affects our physical well-being. So going through everything that Dr. Gelow just explained, the outbreaks, the, having to distance yourself physically from other people, that can have a tremendous effect on your mental health. So if you're stressed, if you're overwhelmed, depressed, anxious, that will throw the whole system off. So if we kind of think about it, our brain, like I said, controls everything, controls the rudimentary things, breathing, heart functions, but it also controls how we feel, think, and act. So if we're depressed, we're isolating. If we're anxious, we're scatterbrained. We're not really focused on everything that we need to get done throughout the day. And this will perpetuate all of those symptoms. So taking a day off and just laying in bed, that can be great. I do it sometimes. Mental health days are excellent. But if this is continuing for more than 3 days, I would definitely encourage you to seek help. If you're comfortable with your provider, please make an appointment to see them, and they can always refer you to someone like me or to another organization that can give you some mental health care. So fighting the stigma. So the LGBTQIA plus BIPOC communities, this is not the first time that we've faced stigma. This has been an ongoing, generational, probably since the dawn of time type of situation. So I want to make sure that when we're trying to work through the stigma and the shame, and a lot of this comes from people who are uneducated. So I'm glad that y'all are here today to listen to what we're saying, that when we're fighting stigma, we have to really be cognizant that this is going to be an ongoing fight. So Dr. Gelow mentioned going to educate the people at urgent care, going to educate potential family members, your spouse, your partner. Everyone needs to be on the same page, and that will take a lot of effort from us, providers, and from you, those who may be impacted by monkeypox. So some of the ways to beat stigma: taking care of your health, both mental and physical. So making sure you're going to your checkups, listening to your providers, asking questions to your providers when you're feeling unsure, making sure you're going to therapy, being consistent, being open, honest, and authentic. Seeking therapy and support, and then also speaking out. So speaking out isn't just to people like us and, asking the appropriate questions, but it's also your neighbor. It's also your child's teacher or your child, and just making sure that everyone, again, is on the same page. This does not have to be verbal. Speaking verbally can be very difficult. So if you have trouble with that, you can always write letters. So councilwomen, councilmen, legislature, making sure that they're involved in this process, because like Dr. Gelow said, this vaccine is not regulated yet or not approved? Not approved yet. So in order for us to get the approval that we're searching for, we're going to need people at the top to make those decisions. You can also use social platforms, so Facebook, Instagram, wherever you feel comfortable, to make sure you are disseminating the correct information about monkeypox, not kind of, feeding into the stigma that's continuing to this day. Another thing that I would like to talk about is shame and guilt. And this can be a heavy topic for just about any of us, but I wanted to kind of break down the difference between shame and guilt, because they are pretty different once you take a look at them. So shame is the feeling that your whole being is wrong. So I kind of equate this to feeling like unloved, unvalued, vulnerable, like you're just not in a good space with your whole self. Whereas guilt is feeling like you did something wrong. So this can be in all avenues. I didn't do great on a test. I didn't give the right therapy advice to my client that day. I didn't, make sure I took the right sexual precautions with my partner. Any type of mistake that we've made is attributed to guilt. So appropriate ways to cope with this is, number one, name it. We have to speak on it. We have to write on it. We have to do whatever we can to get this feeling out. Some people like to dance. Some people like to, rap. Do whatever you can to get this out, and that's perfectly fine. So talk to people you trust. Again, I would love it if it was us providers, but if it's not, it can always be a partner, can always be a sibling, parents, whomever, best friend. but make sure we're getting out the information that we would like to share. Again, shame and guilt is very difficult to deal with, so I understand, but we need to be talking about this. Also, seek services, and I'll talk about some resources in a little bit, but individual therapy, group therapy, and again, if you are having an active outbreak, many organizations do have virtual options. So we could always virtual you into a session, and you'll see all the group members, you'll be involved, but it'll just be a virtual session for you. Here at the Southwest Center, we also have peer support services. So these are services run by people who identify in the LGBTQIA community, and they are just giving you any type of resource that you may need, education, support, whatever you may need in the moment. So lastly, before we get into some questions, I want to talk about some resources. So as you can see, we're great resources. Like I said earlier, when I was introducing myself, I feel like we do everything under the sun here. We offer virtual and in-person counseling, educational and peer support groups, obviously medical. We have gender expansive resources, medical case management, everything you could think of we have here at the Southwest Center. Another good resource for counseling would be PRISM. So their website is below. They also offer virtual and in-person counseling. And TZAS, so Trans Spectrum of Arizona, offers peer support groups for the community. So I think we're going to take a break and answer some questions for you.
Thanks, Chelsea. All right, so we got a couple questions. So this first one says, are there concerns for exposure using public facilities like gym showers, pools, shelters, since exposure can occur on surfaces and on fabric?
Unfortunately, the answer is yes, that is very possible, because it is via contact, and you're absolutely correct in answering that and asking that. And how do you protect yourself? Well, if you go and use the restroom, for example, use a barrier method on the toilet would be an option. At the gym showers, for example, yes, that is a potential exposure, but it's mostly like on an object that doesn't get washed. So at the showers, usually it's soap and water and probably a lower risk there. But sitting on the bench, for example, if somebody had some pox on their rectum is a very big possibility. So maybe putting your towel down beforehand and sitting on that and then washing it after you're done would be an option. It's going to be smart about that, yeah, so it is.
All right, the next question says, where can I find info for a provider who is not familiar with monkeypox? So we're actually going to be talking about some of those resources here in just a little bit. So I'm kind of going to save that for later. And then this next one says, can you talk about the effectiveness of the vaccine? How long do you have to wait until you're fully covered?
Awesome question. So can we put a pin in that too? Because we're going to talk about that in a few seconds.
Sure. All right. So I'll kind of take over here. Oh, sorry.
There might be one
question. Okay.
One more question. Coming in hot.
One.
Bring it to us.
Oh, this is long. All right. So there is a lot of confusing info about the vaccine online. I see posts online talking about the amount of time to wait in between doses, the second dose is not necessary, etc. Could you talk about its effectiveness? How long to wait after the vaccine to resume our normal lives?
Awesome. So, yes. Can I hold
Sure.
that? Okay. So I'm going to answer this in just a second because we're going to talk about the vaccine. And then I think this might answer a lot of the questions, and I'm going to just kind of peruse through it and go through that again.
So,
One more question for you.
Oh, wait, there's
I
more.
love it. If monkeypox is visible, how are people still touching each other and not realizing they're touching someone with monkeypox?
So that's a good question. So if monkeypox is still visible, how are they still touching people and not knowing? Because, let's think about this. So if you go to hug somebody, for example, are you looking at their entire body when you hug them? No, you're probably making eye contact, looking at their face. And so you're right, you're not going to like do a one over arm, spin around, let me look at your whole body before I hug you. That's not realistic. So just kind of go in for a hug and call it a day. And if you think about, this is a pimple, right? So we try to hide blemishes, we try to hide pimples. And that, it's small, it's, and you're right that it can be visible. we're not talking like 1,600, pimples on your arm. You can see it could just be a couple, and it just looks like a pimple, and we think nothing of it, because that's what we've been doing for our entire life. So this is going to be kind of a different way of thinking, just kind of protecting yourself, and just kind of thinking about it like that.
Any more questions? We're good. All right, perfect. So a little bit of more information that you can find online, definitely the CDC website that's listed here. For more local information, you can check the Maricopa County website. And then also, if you have any questions related to the immunization, you can call this number here with the CARES team, and they can also provide that information as well.
Real quick, just know they're inundated right now with calls. So if you don't get through, try again. Don't give up. They are overwhelmed. I mean, it's been an amazing response from our community at getting this and getting the social media out. I mean, everybody has been knowing about the vaccine clinics, which is helpful. This maricopa.gov/monkeypox website is probably one of the best ones that you can go to, since the Maricopa County Health Department right now, just stay tuned for more information, right now is the one that's giving the vaccine. That's where you're going to go. And there's a link on there, which we'll add into the slideshow at the end when we upload it. And there's a link in there that you'll click on. It says, for more information and updates, click here. You put in your information, and they literally will email you every time there's a new update on vaccine clinics. So it's super, super helpful.
So do you want to talk about vaccine resources?
Sure. So I told you I like to talk. So okay. Fine. You got it. All right. So what to know about the monkeypox vaccine? So there's a lot of information. So I'm going to kind of go over this. There's 2 different vaccines right now. And remember that, we talk about it as being a monkeypox vaccine, but it's actually smallpox vaccines that we're using to treat for monkeypox, okay? Because they're similar viruses, they're in the same family. And so that's what we're using it for. And there's really high efficacy, 85% or higher efficacy from these vaccines when they're used to actually treat monkeypox. Those that received the vaccine, I think the last dose of the smallpox vaccine was in the 70s, do have some lasting immunity that can help protect against monkeypox as long as it's still in their system, of course. But they're still encouraged to go get the updated vaccine too, if they're able to, still get that. So the vaccine that we use, that we've been hearing about, is a Gelow vaccine. It's offered at vaccine clinics only. So primary care doctor offices can't offer this, urgent cares, pharmacies don't offer this. It's only at Maricopa County Health Department, and Taylor will tell you some more information about that here in a minute, because there's exciting revelations about that. So right now, you need 2 doses for full protection. And that's what was studied when this came out for smallpox. So you get 1 dose of the vaccine. The second dose can be given 3 to 4 weeks after the first one. And then after you get that second dose, within 2 weeks, and this is with any vaccine, so within 2 weeks after the last dose of that series, you actually have conferred immunity to that organism that we're treating you against. So you do need the 2 full doses, and that's what I'd recommend for the full protection. It is a live vaccine, and that's what people don't understand, is that this is a live vaccine. So that means that if you do get this vaccine, for a period of 4 weeks after, you cannot get any other vaccine. So HPV, flu, COVID, shingles, you can't get any other vaccines unless you get them the same day as this vaccine, or you wait 4 weeks after. The alternative is, if you get like the COVID vaccine, let's say you get a COVID vaccine today and you go down to the county tomorrow to get your monkeypox vaccine or the Gelow, you can do it that way. So you can get a dead vaccine first, then this, but you can't do the opposite. And it's really important that if you get the monkeypox vaccine, that you let your primary care doctor know, because they need to know that they can't give you any other vaccines for a period of 4 weeks. So keep that in mind, okay? And that's really important. That's kind of coming up in our clinics now. So just keep us informed for sure. If you get infected before or after your first dose, you don't get vaccinated unless you're immunocompromised. So the vaccine, after an exposure, can help protect you against having active outbreak of monkeypox. So that's what we're using it for right now, is for those that have been exposed. But if you actually develop symptoms while you're getting vaccinated, your immune system will take care of, essentially act as the second dose, because you have the virus, it'll fight it off and it will build up your immunity. The vaccine just tries to help you get immunity before you're exposed, to try to prevent that. But, for those individuals, it wouldn't work that way. Now, do not cancel a scheduled appointment. Right now, these clinics are for only 18 and older. So if you're younger than that, not right now. And then the information there about the Maricopa County Health Department website. The vaccines are currently being offered to individuals who are cis, trans, gay, bisexual men, other men who have sex with men, or trans women, and who have intimate or sexual contact with men in a social or sexual venue, or have multiple or anonymous sexual partners. And anyone who shares a household with a person who tested positive for monkeypox is also available to get this vaccine. So these are the requirements right now that they're trying to screen everybody for. We don't want you, making up any stories or anything. We really want to save these for the highest risk individuals, but at the same time, we want to get everyone vaccinated as soon as we can. All right, Taylor.
So as Dr. Gelow mentioned a little earlier, we do have some exciting news. Southwest Center is actually going to be a vaccination spot. It's going to be starting next week on the 10th. There's going to be more information coming, so make sure you log on to that Maricopa County website. That is actually where you will sign up for an appointment for that vaccine clinic. And as well, there's another one that's already scheduled on August 8th at Maricopa County as well. That's really all.
So don't call the Southwest Center looking for the
Yeah.
vaccine. Do not call the Southwest Center. It's all the Maricopa Care's website. Okay, they're handling everything. It just will be another distribution site for those that may not be able to make it down to Roselle.
All right, and then looks like we have a couple more questions, so we're gonna make sure we address those. Is it typically just one or two pimple-like spots, or can it be a huge grouping too?
Yes, so all the above. So it can present as minimal as a couple of pimples, we'll say, or pox, or however we want to kind of call it. But I've had quite a few patients who come in with 20, 30, 50 kind of pox-like lesions that are on the rectum. And, you can imagine the more you have, the more painful it is, of course. It doesn't just have to be one or two, it can be multiple as well.
This one says, I have one lesion, can I still have monkeypox? And we did talk about that. Yes, it can still be monkeypox. So just kind of look for those other symptoms, like Dr. Gelow said, with the fevers, flu-like symptoms, the enlarged lymph nodes, and things like that.
Remember, everybody's exposures are different. So maybe a higher amount that you're exposed to, every immune system is different. So you may be able to fight it off a little bit quicker or faster than other people. But yes, it is possible.
All right. This one says, how do I get tested if I don't have a primary care doctor?
So we talked about that kind of, urgent care would be an option as well to go to. Coming down here to Southwest Center, they are more than happy to help you out in any way, of course. But making sure that you educate the provider that you go to. Like I said, if it's not an LGBTQ plus provider, they may not be well versed on this, and so they may just need some education, and that's what we're all here to do.
Also, another important thing to remember is there's only testing available if you have an active rash or lesion. There's no like blood test or anything like that to kind of check for that. So, do I have to tell my family if I have monkeypox?
So, technically, I mean, your body, your choice as to how you want to disclose information. I think that notifying any potential exposures is always in our best interest, because we want to make sure that those that are around you can be protected. Although there have been few fatalities, so people have died from monkeypox. Children are obviously going to be more susceptible to potential complications, elderly, those that are immunocompromised. And real quick, I did want to bring up the fact that most people that are HIV positive have historically been told that live vaccines are generally no good. You can't get a live vaccine because you're immunocompromised and it could be problematic. Well, interestingly, the Gelow vaccine has actually been studied all the way down to a CD4 count of 200. So for those that are HIV positive, the Gelow small monkeypox vaccine is actually yay. You can get it as long as your CD4 counts 200 or higher. So I did want to bring that up because I feel like that was a great point. Yeah.
All right. How do I manage anxiety around monkeypox and the health of my community?
Absolutely. So there are some techniques that we call grounding techniques that are very beneficial for people who are going through active anxiety, depression moments. So a lot of the grounding techniques involve what we see, like our five senses. So 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things that you can smell, 2 you can touch, and 1 you can taste. So if we're in the moment, we're feeling overwhelmed, I'm gonna look around the room and I see my coworker, I see our projector screen on some gummy bears, like that'll just, calm us down in the moment to know that you're grounded and you're safe. And again, talking about this is going to reduce the stigma and the shame and the anxiety around monkeypox. So the more we talk, again, doesn't have to be verbal, the more we get our education and our message out there, the more likely that the anxiety is going to reduce.
That's why therapy is so effective, right?
Yay!
If I get the vaccine after a possible exposure, but still symptomless, will it prevent monkeypox?
Yes, so that is actually when, the first part came out, that's exactly it. So if you've been exposed, you've been to, a party where you know that there are multiple people that may have tested positive or something, and you can go get the vaccine, it actually can help protect you against having a large outbreak of monkeypox, minimize the symptoms or even minimize them down to 0, so you don't actually have any of those outbreaks. Yes.
Let's see. Why should I get vaccinated?
Well, it's kind of like with COVID and every other vaccine, to help protect yourself, right? So that's ultimately the number 1 reason. But number 2 is because when you get vaccinated and you don't become a carrier or a host for this virus, for example, then you're not exposing others to this virus either. So we can get rid of this. Right now, in a few of the states, it is becoming a health crisis, like New York, California. They're declaring health crisis because the numbers are exploding. I think we had the 79 confirmed or possible monkeypox cases, and just a week ago that was only in the 20s. So that's rapidly expanding and I think it's because it's 3 weeks of potential kind of it's in our body but not really doing a whole lot, and then we kind of feel sick but not enough to stay away, and then all of a sudden we develop this rash, and we kind of could have been exposing others to it during that time.
Another question is there any protection from the first vaccine?
Yes.
Currently, I've been unable to schedule for a second vaccine, and I'm worried how long it will take to set in.
Yes. Now, so everybody who's getting the vaccine right now is technically kind of our study. We're kind of seeing it exactly kind of like COVID. When COVID first came out, the COVID vaccine, the initial individuals that got it were our studies. Because this is not FDA approved for monkeypox, we're learning how this can help. And with anything, you do have some level of immunity that happens with the first vaccine. The reason why we do the second vaccine is because when you get that first vaccine, your body, okay, I have something that I need to fight off, I'll develop an immunity. But when you get that second vaccine, you induce a stronger, longer lasting memory immunity for future exposures. So yes, that first vaccine can help protect you against the short term, the here and now. But if this is going to be around for a while, we want to make sure that we get that second vaccine to help give us that long-lasting immunity. And that's the really most important point about this.
So I think that kind of sums it up for our questions. Thank you all so much for joining us again. I hope this put your mind at ease, or at least provided you with some more information regarding monkeypox and the vaccine, and kind of how it's affecting and coping skills to deal with the current crisis. So if you have any other questions, feel free to please send them in. We will continue to respond to questions online. This presentation will also be posted online. And like I said, check the CDC website, the Maricopa County website, and call the Southwest Center if you have any questions.
Remember, this is not to scare you. We're not here to scare you. We're here to educate. And once you educate, you know how to respond. And so same thing with, Chel'sea. She's here to educate you so that you don't become overwhelmed,
Absolutely.
That's what we're here for.
And you get to see our faces and hopefully know that we're not scary and we're not overwhelming. So I would just say, please take care of yourself. And if you need us, we'll be here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
All right.